Hello. Welcome to Bouncyrock's bi-monthly banter, the first of hopefully many. Uh, it will probably be a little rough around the edges. This is our first time setting a lot of this stuff up, specifically with all the new fancy stuff we have going on in the background. Big shout out to Demiplane, who has helped us with a question bot that is already digesting all of the questions you wonderful folks are asking and putting them in a queue for us to go through later. I will be emceeing the question portion and reading all those aloud. And other than that, I'm going to give it up to the rest of these wonderful folks. And let's get into the actual updates of what we have done and what's coming up in Tailspire Land.
Awesome. All right. Okay. Then I'm I'm seeing a lot of dog comments, which is fantastic. That is the correct response. Can we just have someone just shout out if the audio is okay for everyone? And other than me being loud as usual. And then we will get into business. What is chat saying? Da, 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 da. Can I pet that dog? If you have very long arms. Right. Go, go, go. Good survey. Excellent. Good, good, good. Cool. There's quite a lag in the chat, isn't there? No problem. Righto. Yeah, welcome back. It's been a while. We have a bunch to talk about. The obvious thing is modding, creature modding. It is time to get this out into beta. And so yeah, I want to give a little demo of that and a bit of an update. But I guess we should let's start with a bit of a modding demo, and then we'll just have a general chat about what we've been up to, and then we'll get into the Q&A and do some business. So let's begin. So we've been wanting to do creature mods for a long time. We knew from the outset that we didn't want just like a folder you dropped mods in. We want that as well, and that is there. But we wanted something that was much more integrated and, well, yeah, smooth. So you have like a 0-click install, or at most 1 click. And so we're going to get into that. So just as a demo, what am I going to do? Let's switch to a board over here. This is Bob by Genghis, by the way. Let's go to here with Bootkook. But before I do that, I am going to go into the modding section, into the new community content section. This is the default setting where we're going to ask you what we're about to install. But for this little demo, let's just turn on trust the whole lot. And then we will go over here. And if the demo gods are kind, we will jump in, and mods have appeared. So these guys, I should really have shown that these weren't installed first. Let's do that, because I'm definitely a professional. Right, let's uninstall these. They are uninstalled. Let's go back to the Sea Fort. We get there. It's thinking about it, they're back. That's what modding install looks like in Tailspire now. The beta will be starting on Monday, and it's probably going to be in for a couple of weeks. It's one of our wilder updates. This touches so much code. Tailspire has been evolving for a really long time, like from before it was a VTT game kind of thing, all the way back when it was just a very kind of miniature themed kind of dungeon crawl kind of experience. So there was a lot of code that never really assumed that content would be coming in async. So yeah, we've had to touch everything from how assets work across platform all the way down to how icons load and all this kind of stuff. So yes, that is the basics. I'm going to there's a level of integration that happens when things become anticlimactic, because they just kind of happen. I'm going to switch off trust so I can show in another board what pasting content looks like. So I'm just going to go over to let's go to the brewer's house again. I'm going to grab a blueprint here. This is of a mod. So like in normal in Tailspire, you can copy a creature and you can get a blueprint like this, and then you can paste it into another board and it just works. This one now can show that when you try and paste this, it's talking with this blueprint uses content that's been made by the community. So we can say we can view it in the library, or we can just say download, and you've got the options to switch what our default behavior is. In future, when we have lots of repositories, there'll be a way of whitelisting which ones you trust and which ones you don't. But for now, it's just the mod.io one, so we've only got this one option. So I'm going to say download this. And then before long, there we go, already. The cat is there. So there is Flares in game. And of course, any point you can unlink content, and it turns into a ghost, just like you've probably seen if you've used any of the Hero Forge integration. And you can click this, and it's back again. You can publish boards, you can still share them, all these kind of things. You can copy paste things. It all works as expected, and it knows how to reach out and grab things. There is, I actually haven't quite shown here, but actually let's do that. So we have the library, we have our community mod section with your unbelievable number of slabs. Is so, like, as a person who's not great at building, I adore just being able to jump in here and kit bash stuff together. So thank you so much. It's so cool. Yes, so I'm going to unlink flares here. And we can go down to the missing mod section. And this is where you can review content that is not currently installed, but is needed in this board. So you can come here, review what you like, especially because if you import a board, there might be 20, 30 things that people have made that they're using. So you can just come in, click the thing for the ones you like, and it comes in. Once the board has recognized that it's told you once about content, it won't bug you all the time. And it will bug you even less if you just tell it to trust and install. And as usual, we've still got your published creations. So you can go in here and, decide whether they're going to be public or not. And then in the subscription sections, you can handle updates and things like this. This will get worked over in the future. One of the things you'll see in here, talking of repositories specifically, is that right now we only have the official mod repository. It is very much still our plan to have the community be able to create their own repositories, which are completely out of our control. It's absolutely critical to us that we aren't like a bottleneck for the community. We're always going to have to adhere to certain things, and we're not here to parent you on what content can go inside Tailspire. We're just here to provide a decent experience for everyone. I think that's the main thing I want to say about that. Of course, these are just the mods that have been uploaded to a repository. So we also have, let me jump over to the library here. Once things are installed, you can also find them down in the library here. These sections are fairly small at the moment as community content increasingly comes to dominate what's available. This will be reworked a bit to be a bit more helpful. We're obviously very much at the beginning of this road here. So you have, here's the things that were installed through the community browser. But we also have mods that were just created using Tailweaver and not put into the cloud. So how about we go through creating one of those? Because I'm sure some of you have seen this because we released the tool a little while ago, but I'm sure plenty of you haven't. So we can do that. Let's just see in the chat, just make sure nothing's exploding. All right. Okay. And make sure if you've got questions, stick the Q exclamation mark thing at the beginning so we get them in the Q&A section later. All right. So we're going to set up a mod. This is our little plugin for Unity. You can use the free version of Unity, drop this plugin in. And the reason we've done it like that is Unity has a whole bunch of inbuilt content pipeline tools. It knows how to convert things into its own formats. And so we use that as a kind of jump start. We're not super happy, or at least I'm not super happy with the result at the moment. I think it could be a lot slicker. And in the future, we might rebuild this in as its own kind of dedicated thing. But that would be a bunch of work. So we need you to be able to build sooner than that. So going to start with a name. This is going to be Clutch. I'm going to grab a mesh, drop it in here. I'm just going to grab a few textures. That's the albedo, some metallic, and a normal map. We are going to click here, and I am going to focus group for translation and actually do it for rotation. Now, I know I want this to be minus 90 degrees that way and actually minus 90 degrees that way. It's almost like I was testing this before the stream, so the demo gods wouldn't kill me. Right, so I'm going to bring this up a little bit. I am going to set the scale to something more reasonable, so 0.57-ish, something like that. All right, and let's line her up. So I'm going to go into orthographic mode quickly so I can place her where I want to. And then I'm going to bring down here until her feet are on the ground. And just check from the front as well. That's not how you do that, Chris. There we go. And back to a normal perspective view. And that's the basic setup. Scale, that works for me. I can compare her against some of the other minis at default scale at size 1. So this is comparing at size 1, and then you can set what the default scale will be when loaded in. I haven't actually made this preview in a nice way yet, which is stupid, so I will fix that. There's a lot to do with this tool down the road. So now we set up some key points that Tailspire is interested in, like the head. So let's go back into orthographic again, because that just makes this easy. Let's take a spell target, which is where the spells are going to come from. So I think let's just have it coming out of our elbow, because that makes no sense. Magical elbow. Hit target, that's generally the chest. We've got little explanations here, but I am just storming through this so we can get things in game pretty fast. And torch target is generally just above the height of the head and slightly in front. So we're going to put that there. And then we're going to set up, I'm going to go back into ortho, and we're nearly done. I'm going to grab this, set up the thumbnail picture, and then the bigger picture we'll use for other content, like the bigger preview. And also, if you're uploading it to a site like Mod.io, they want a bigger thumbnail. So that's what that is for. And then we say save. And where am I going to put this? Right. Yes, actually, we'll do that. So let's start with, I will jump into inside the Tailspire folder, which I'll show you where this is in a second. There's a local content pack section, and you can just save things in here. So this is clutch, hit return. And if we go back to Tailspire, she's already here. So that is, if you were doing things the long way, going from one of your own assets to something you can have in game, that's the whole process. We don't concern ourselves with trying to be a modeling tool, because that is, big teams spend decades making useful tools. We are not going to be able to do a comparable job doing that part-time with a few people. So we leave that for those programs, and then we just handle getting it into the right format ourselves. So that's it. So if you wanted to share this, I can actually show you where that directory is. You can go here, you can go here, and you can open the settings directory, and there's local content packs. So you can share this file with your friends. They can drop it into local content packs as well, and it will be available for all of you. Or you can upload it to the community mod browser, in which case, like, everything is done automatically anyway. So you don't have to do any of that jazz. And that is definitely the way. If you want to share boards which contain community content, it's good to put your community content. It's good to put your content in with the community so they can use it as well. All right. Let's see. Is there anything else we need to demo? We got, yeah, we've got local stuff. We've got repo stuff. That's where we're starting. Yeah. Okay. In that case, I will probably have a bit of a ramble on what's been going on, unless anyone wants to chip in first. Anyone yelling at them?
I just want to say, like, that was awesome, man.
That's I think that's the first time you've seen the whole flow, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. So, yeah,
it's been really just cool. So crazy, really.
Very exciting, man. It's been a whirlwind. I know you've been going like nuts the past, like, you know. So it's, it's just a lot has happened in a short amount of time. You know, for, I mean, just getting it to this point. You know, you did. That was really cool, just seeing that. And I'm it's actually like, it seems easier for me to put this in, like, put minis in the game than it is to use Tailweaver, the stuff that we're using right now.
Dude, what a setup. Well, that's the thing. Like, long term, I think the modding tools should be the thing we want to use to put content into Tailspire.
Yeah.
Like, that should be how we do it. We should be using the same tools as the community. Yeah, I've gone with a bit of a different direction with it for sure, but I think that's where we'll end up. So yeah, nice,
cool.
Okay, then I will slide into the next thing, which is just giving a wee bit of an update on where we all are at, what's kind of going on behind the scenes, as much as we can tell you. For those along for the first time, one of the things we've made very clear when we do these is we like being open, as honest as possible. We'll also be honest with you about what we're lying about, because we're not going to tell you things that would impact our partners in negative ways. So if we were doing something cool with someone cool, and they're not ready to talk about it, we're not going to talk about it. So just, that's all, but we will talk about whatever we can. So yeah, there is obviously a ton going on behind the scenes as well. So we've had Chairmander has been heavily on tagging and building a replacement for the search system. The tagging has worked, but especially as we go into community content, we need a standardized way of setting up tags. We need to make sure they're flexible. We need to make sure that we're ready for handling translations, and that the community can build translations for other people's content. Because obviously, if someone makes a miniature or a little pack or something, and it's really popular, it doesn't mean that the original creator can talk 15 languages. So it needs to be just like subtitles. You just need to be able to make a subtitle for that thing, and we need to be able to put it out there so we can look in the repositories and say, hey, we've got a translation file for this thing that you use, and bring all that together, which we can absolutely do down the line. But it's just lots of pieces to get there. So yeah, the tagging has been ridiculous because if you taxonomies are impossible and stupid, and you can't just use the ones that exist in the world because they're too much and too little at the same time. So getting there has been fun. And we want live search as well. So making sure that we can do this in a way that's really fast, so you can just type and see it's going to be cool. Borodust has been just our hero of backend. There is the infrastructure is so much more solid than when I was cobbling it together, which is fantastic. So again, we have lots of fancy things that I'm not going to belabor us with, but yeah, the infrastructure is in a much better place and the clusters are all looking good. He's been working on that, keeping everything up to date, making sure that we have the tools to deploy things in a way that's much nicer than before. Yeah, and he's also been working on something that we've been calling the campaign manager in the backend. So whenever you're doing stuff, we're obviously sending messages up to the server, especially when it comes to uniques. We're moving uniques around and we're sending things up. And I had some very naive code that got us here, but was not going to scale as Tailspire gets bigger. And we are hoping to get bigger. We think we will. So there was places where we were hitting the database way too much. So he's been building this layer, which is completely is like transparently synchronized across the cluster using a protocol called Raft. Everything's built on top of that, and protocol approach probably. Yes, it's a kind of our caching layer that we hit before things get written out to the database. It's very fun. It is going to be in beta along with the creature modding if all goes well. We're still ironing out some bugs. It's fun. He's also started work on seats, which I'm sure plenty of you want to hear about. The interaction with Steam itself for the purchasing side of that is basically done, but we then have to actually write the back-end portion, which is handling the seats that you buy and how they're assigned to people and all that kind of stuff. And then there'll be a front-end component. So we are still very confident that by the end of March, you will have seats. And so that's looking really good. So great work there. Panda, obviously, you've been seeing a lot of his stuff is very visible in the social side. If it's happening on our socials, Panda probably has a hand in it. And then all the bits you don't see, which is talking to partners and people who are reaching out and doing those kind of things. Chair's obviously behind the scenes with all the support things as well. So if you're on what do they call them? So it's not Hello Next anymore, is it? There's a Featureos. That's it. If you're basically filing bugs and handling that, you can expect to see Chairmanders reaching out to you, which has been fantastic because it felt terrible when so many of you were filing so much good stuff, like both on the feature request side and the bug reports, and I wasn't able to get to you when I was neck deep in code. So that's really cool. Jason, of course, as on Mega Dungeon, all the little small packs, asset fixes, all these things that are coming out. It's been sick to see. It's always nice. I would like just the response whenever an asset update lands is lovely. And then we've got Ree and Hekbo, who you probably haven't heard from as much recently. And the reason for that is they had their first kid late last year, which is fantastic. And because we are lucky to live in Norway, which has a very strong opinion and policy around parental leave, they have a good chunk of parental leave, and they're both off on that. It all happened a bit sooner than expected, so a few things were left up in the air, and Bree apologizes for that. Namely, he was working on the in-game hero creator, our kind of clipped together kind of creature building, monster building kind of thing. And also the sequencer, which is why I went from going, the sequencer's coming out real soon, to silence on the sequencer. So here's apologies, but kid, it's really cool. So yes, that's team update. Things are going well. It's going to be a really fun year with the modding and seats landing and just the things that are queued up. It's going to be neat. And yeah, if I'm not forgetting anything, then I think we're ready to start doing some Q&A type stuffs.
All right. Let's unless you have anything else, Jason, I think we'll kick over to that then.
No, nothing else. Just keep on lookout. I'm going to be working on the Mega Dungeon landed, and then I'm going to be working on the Mega Sector next, which is basically the sci-fi equivalent to the Mega Dungeon. So there's going to be circular rooms, diagonal walls, that kind of stuff. So keep an eye out for that. And on to the QA.
All right. So our first question. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. But it was from, I will choose a similar question from someone else, which was from Jay Fabre. Can we expect a Fog of War this year? Basically asking, is Fog of War in process right now? Where are we at?
Yeah, so I'm haven't been working on Fog of War while I've been doing the modding. So it's going to be modding, seats, and then it really, I want to take a period of time to work on quality of life stuff. We need a whole bunch of small fixes, so that will be a little while. Then what have we got coming? Then it's really a toss-up. I actually haven't finalized what I'm doing for this year. I'd like to get back on it. I've got some more ideas on how to tackle that. It still remains a really tricky problem, and I'd love to have re-involved in that especially for the visual side. But I've got some ideas on where to tackle that. So shipping this year, I honestly don't know. I do not know. But yeah, I will keep you posted on that. It is the most obvious missing thing right now, and I'm really tempted to throw in a few, to do a few kind of temporary things. Like, what if we just had it that we don't render anything past a certain distance around all of the players in the party? That in itself, like, it would see through walls and things like this, and that wouldn't be great, but there would at least be something. I'm sure that when I implement that, I'd find a whole bunch of reasons that that's complicated too, but I think we can take some steps in that direction. Let's see if we can do that this year. Get at least something, something in that vein shipped, because my previous experiment didn't go so well.
Okay, our next question is from Azazel226. Are there any technical contributions the community can make to help Tailspire thrive?
That's a really good question. Actually, I'm not sure that technical stuff right now. I think the big thing is just the big. I mean, there's technical in that, like. So one of the glaring holes at the moment is good, a really good character sheets kind of integration. That's something I haven't got to yet. It's the whole rules system things. So yes, with symbiotes, there's a whole bunch of people heading down that road, building character sheets for different things, which is awesome. I think those efforts are really helpful. But other than that, it's less technical and more just like, the more people share, the more it helps people. There's such a net effect of someone being able to drop in. We hear this a whole bunch of like, oh, I had some last second thing and we dropped it, like my party was arriving and I was able to just go in, like find a dungeon in 2 seconds in the slab thing and paste it down and start playing. That is because of you folks, and that's great. So yeah, it's kind of a sidestep around your question, I'm afraid. But I can't think of anything purely technical right now. Unless you know how to make what is it, like punch through NAT 100% reliable, so we can just do peer-to-peer voice video chat without having to have stun servers all the time, because those are expensive. Stun turn, sorry. There you go.
Right. Our next question is a simple one from Forge of Lore. Wheels win.
Wheels win. What wheels? Just like assets that are just wheels?
Yeah.
Wheel?
That's pieces like that and assets like that for kit bashing and to just build your own thing. As soon as like I would love to generate a bunch of those assets. Once like subboards are a thing, once like you
Okay.
can take those assets and actually do something with them and making them, moving them across, yeah, and the board and et cetera, et cetera. But maybe yeah, yeah. Uh, I was gonna say maybe I can like do a few because wheels, they're not super complicated to make, but if not with the mega sector, I might do it just a post kind of asset, like a small asset pack, because I know people wanted separate weapons. Because we released like weapon racks and people were like, hey, how about separate weapons? Oh, yep, 100%. So, maybe some sort of like, small pack with like weapons, wheels, things like that for kind of modern. But then who knows? Maybe you're asking about wagon wheels. So
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
there's wagon wheels in the chat as well.
Yeah. So, fuck it, man. Maybe we just do a wheel pack. You know what I'm saying?
Just
Just like a wheel
Just a
pack.
wheel pack.
Yeah. Oh man.
All right.
That'll be like the easiest 2 weeks of my life. Not really, but like, yeah. Just chuck out a bunch of
You say that now.
cylinders and here you go. No. Yeah, it's a good
Alright.
question, man. So, look out for
So
super.
so no fog of war wheels.
Yeah. Exactly.
All the time dev times can be wheels now because it's very
Yeah.
need a lot of engine support for that. Actually,
Yeah.
though you're saying subboards, that is, I think dice macros, like a good dice macro system and subboards are so important. And I think like, yeah, we unlock so much by having that. That yeah, that might win out over the final fog of war implementation for at least in the order of things. But yeah, the question was wheels, Chris. Shut up about your fog of war.
Well, I brought up the subboards. That's so things need to come into place first.
Okay. Our next question from Command Mind: will there be new building assets in the future? For example, Western, Samurai, etc.
Yes. In fact, okay, so Western, yeah, we'd absolutely love to do some like Western assets, and of course, as long as people are playing this thing, we are going to be creating assets for it. And there's probably going to come a point where, yeah, we want to absolutely do some Western assets or something, that you could use in a Western environment, and it would, fit there, either in the medieval pack or the modern pack. I'm not sure if we'd make like a completely new, because we have like the cyberpunk and like the medieval asset categories right now. So wherever those would go, sure. And as far as like stuff for like samurai and things like that, there is something in the works at the moment, behind the scenes. So keep an eye out for that. Johnny's actually working on that one, and I'm very excited about what he's going to do. Now, of course, again, he has the kid, so it's just stuff that he's doing, just kind of like whenever he can, very very part time, more for enjoyment and just probably sanity than anything. So
but when he's back from parental leave,
when he's back from parental leave, probably see something coming out. So,
and that also automatically answered another one of our questions from Black Wolf Magic, who had asked if there was an Asian pack in the works anytime soon. So
yeah, we have a kind of like very much an Eastern kind of style pack. So there's a lot to work through there. When it comes to packs in general, like our goal for V1 is to have enough assets that you can run like a good variety of campaigns. You should be able to drop in and be able to play in a whole bunch of general kind of campaigns, and then we can do packs and stuff for like hyper specialized things, and that's something we talked about, whether that be a purchase thing or down the line. And there's all kinds of possibilities there. Don't know what the community will be doing by then as well, so it's very interesting. Yes.
Our next question is from Gone Splitters. How are states going? You showed Ghostlight State and Poisoned. Would love more news on this.
Yeah. Yes, that's That is sitting on a branch. It was Johnny's, and it needs me to finish it. So there was some robustness stuff on. There's so many different ways that like minis arrive on the board and things like this, that there was some just order of operations things that need to be worked out for those emotes, but they're sitting there somewhere. The code has probably bit rotted a bit since it was last touched. So I need to find out what branch that is. I need to merge it in, fix everything up to the latest code, and then I should be able to work on that. And that'd be dope. God, you're reminding me all the things we're doing this year. I'm like only thinking of the next like kind of 2 or 3 features, but yes. Oh, goddamn emotes.
And that actually can jump right into as well, in case it's slightly different. Sheepsy17 also asked, how far along are status effect indicators? I assume that is the same thing, but in case there's
it's all built
news.
on the same system, yeah. So once that's in, we can do, because there's the visual kind of component on the mini, and then there's stuff that kind of hovers up above it, so your kind of indicators of like blinded or whatever, those kind of states. Yeah, it's all part of the same JS.
Our next question is from that guy Baldrix, who asks, last dev stream there was mention of possibly adding another axis to prop rotation. Has there been any more consideration to this?
Yep, we tested some things, and we got something in, and we didn't quite like it, so we've got to. I actually don't know how much more technically there is to do there, but it's something we need to go back and have another revision and a play session on. But I don't. That's definitely not gone away as something we want to do. Yeah, it definitely feels like a kind of variance system per mini, per prop and things like this. Yeah, not gone away.
Our next is from Consummate Nerd, who asks, can we have view/camera options for players, like first person or limited overhead?
Not for now. That's not in the plan for now, especially not the first. See, the first person thing. Man, because we were like no first person, and that is the case. We're not like we haven't built the assets with the idea of first person in mind. That said, I would love to make an Easter egg mode. It's just something I want to do for my own gratification. Of like, it would be really fun to make a first person kind of run around mode, because it was Stalry's mega, like the big city thing he did a while ago. I can't remember what that board was called, but it was just like the sci-fi city, and it was just so sick. And I'm just like, I just want to walk around this thing all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some of those builds by different people that are just like, I want to walk around. But that said, no, we're not doing that for player. That's not going to be a supported mode. When it comes to different player camera modes, we do want to make the experience of playing much more personal and attached to your mini. So right now, it's very much the same for the GM and the player, but we want to make that you're more connected to your character, a bit more intimate there. We've got some ideas there, but Johnny's the one with the actual designs for
it. He did come in with a rephrasing. Will it be possible to mod in?
No. We're well, I mean, like, there are already people who do the unofficial kind of modding where they're just like DLL hacking, which you can do to any Unity game or a lot of different games. So to that degree, I'm sure someone will hack something in one day, but it's not something we're providing supported modding features for.
Okay. At least Thursday asks, does every player need to download /trust/link the mod creature?
Yeah. So the short answer is yes. Yeah. I definitely want to have a bit more integration on. Yeah, I don't know. This is one of the things we need to play test and see how it goes. To what degree we let the GM decide what you have on your PC. That's something that I just feel a little bit weird about, and I want to see how that pans out, to be honest. But for now, if you don't want to make the decisions, of course, you can just go in and say, like, where is it up here? You can just go into settings and say, trust it all. And then when you go to a board, all the content that your GM has put there will just download.
Okay.
I think that's best I can do that one.
Burning Scythe asks, I know that for Symbiote, Dice Finder works for websites, but not for PDFs, at least not the last time I checked. Will that be available in the future?
I wouldn't know how to do that, actually. I honestly have no idea what kind of... Because you can walk the DOM when you're in a website, but I think the PDF viewer is just kind of a tool that is embedded in the... I don't know if JavaScript has any ability to walk over the structure of a PDF.
That guy Bowdrix is back with how long after creature modding goes live do you think it'll take to open up to props and tiles?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so props and tiles are harder. And it's because you folks wanted really, really big boards. And so we have the ability to support that. It means that every single tile, we don't actually... In a lot of cases, every object would have like an ID. Like all the creatures and things like this have a unique ID that they can be addressed by. This isn't the case for all of the tiles for reasons I'm not going to try and dive into at the moment. So we identify tiles with a few pieces of metadata. Now, that means that that data needs to be exactly the same on every client. Otherwise, the results of building operations will be non-deterministic. Like different boards would go out of sync on different computers. The building system is... I'll try not to dive too deep into that. But yes, it's possible. But we need to be very sure that each client ends up with the same version of some specific data. And that's going to take some testing. I know it's a problem. I'm not sure how much of a problem it's going to be. So I don't have a time. As normal, I'm very scared of giving timelines because almost everything that I end up coding, it's the first time I've built it. Like I've never made like this kind of content system before. And so I make it and it's like, oh, that's going, in the timeline that I expect. And then I get towards the end and I realize there's some fundamental problem. And I have to rewrite the whole thing. And I've done that like 2 or 3 times now with the content system to get good at it. So things just, I don't know how to give a good estimates of time is what I'm saying. So we just kind of leave it to when we get close, we let you know.
Burning Scythe asks, are there any more spells like the Red Laser or Magic Missile planned for the future for minis?
Planned, yes. They are currently queued behind a particle system that we need to write. Making special effects is its whole... Like a VFX artist is a whole skill in itself. Just because someone can make like 3D assets doesn't mean they can do that other skill and make it good, so that is something we have to skill up on and or bring someone in on, and we have to build the particle system. We've there's a we have some things to do there.
We touched on this with the wheels a bit, but that guy Bowdress asked specifically, any new info on subboards?
I can make them. I can make them, but I can only make 1 or 2 things at a time. So there's going to be a fight to see what comes out first. I know I need to make a few small things before I go into another big project. I'd love to do some bug fixing kind of thing. Maybe get onto a moats if I want to look at that and see how big or small a task that will be. You've reminded me of all of these, but subboards is going to be a real sit down and like make sure we get that right. For those who don't know, subboards is going to be the ability to grab large, like huge chunks of the board and move them as individual miniatures. There's a technical aspect to that, which I built the data model for the board does support this as a concept, but there are some really interesting things like with the physics system when you start getting these things intersecting with each other, for example, how things move between them. Because when you put a creature onto, say you build a big airship and you put a creature on the airship, you move the airship, the creature moves with the airship, grand. But you need to be able to step off and things need to interact with all these different... I'm not doing a good job of explaining what's complicated about it, but there's some things that have got me thinking. We'll fix them, but there's some challenges there.
All right. Gaiden Ghost asks, are there any plans for rain? And with a follow-up, Ocean Lord tacks in, any updates regarding weather?
Weather, again, it's the particle system stuff that we need for that. We might actually use rain as the way of prototyping the particle system because it has some nice qualities to it, because it's got to be a full GPU particle system. And having that with like depth buffer based collision-y kind of stuff and things like this. That's going to be fun to do for the first time. So, yep, it's all there as well. It's all planned, and it's doable. It's just time.
War 101 asks, Tailspire would be great for running Shadow Dark, but the small torchlight radius really kills it. Any chance of adding a variable torchlight radius? 15, 30, 60, etc.?
Yeah. No, not with our current torch implementation. So basically, we're using a standard Unity light, and the way the fall off and things work, I've had Johnny explain it to me before, and I go, and every time I'm like, "Can you explain that to me again?" And we go through it, and I go, "Yes, that makes complete technical sense." And then months later, I'm asked why exactly this is tricky, and I can't remember. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a good explanation on that. I know that from a performance point of view, the dynamic lights are the most difficult part for me in a way, because yeah, you're rendering a significant chunk of the scene, and the longer the radius, the more of the board you're having to render in all directions, the 360 thing, to be able to cast the shadows and things like this. So I don't know about that one. That's a genuine I don't know on that one. A lot of these ones are like, yes, once we have yes, but it takes time. But that one I don't know.
That guy Baldrix asks, I was looking into shader stencils for enhanced hide volumes, allowing any shape to become a hide volume. This seems like a good in-between from what we have in true Fog of War. Have you been considering that as an option?
Yes. There are interesting things when you have to, your camera has to pass through and into and interact with different, like, yes. And obviously we need to style things to make things look nice. But yeah, I'm sure stencil tricks will be involved. Yeah.
Duba Lipa asks, can we expect more types of texture maps available for the release of creature modding?
No, because, well, I don't understand that question. Unless you're asking, yeah, no, I don't understand that question as written. But please, if you want to expand on that, I would love to come back to it.
Okay. Going back to the weapon racks, any chance that when/if separate weapons are added, the weapon racks could have easy attachment points for mounting, similar to how other systems use attachment points?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question, and creating kind of some assets like that, racks and things like that, putting some additional attachment points on. I like it. It's something I'll probably play around with actually when I do the separate weapons, and just to kind of, because I haven't really played around with attachment points. The initial push for all that stuff was kind of done by Johnny, and so yeah, I'd like to look into something like that, and yeah, maybe expand and work on other assets that it could work with, tables, etc., and just see what we can do as far as merchant tables or anything like that, and just put some stuff on it, or decorating, some just quick attachment points instead of I don't know. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But it's a good question, and probably something I'll look into when we do the separate weapons.
Gig asks, how's the animation tool coming along?
I'm guessing that's you're talking about the sequencer, and for like making your own trailers and things like that. It's there. I mean, it's a good chunk of the way along. There's a bit more UI work than I expect, like UX work still remaining than I thought. But also that was one of the things that was very much in the middle of work when Johnny had to go and be a dad. So that's one of the things that's paused at the moment.
Okay. Knuckles625 asked, once custom props / tiles are implemented, after creatures presumably, can't some of the different culture scenario asset work be outsourced to the community? Community wants to help add stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Like that's yeah, I'm very much the bottleneck there, I'm afraid, on but yeah, like I'm about sorry, I was just realizing all I'm going to be doing is saying in a really long-winded way, yes. So Yes.
Rex Verity asks, bit away for a bit, will there be tools to support importing dungeon maps from JSON files again, or would that fall to modders?
I would love to add things to the Symbiotes API for modifying the board from Symbiotes. And then, yeah, then it's just a case of people making Symbiotes to do that, which would be sick. I'm not sure like if Baldrex's work with, was it DaVinci he's been using to generate boards?
I believe it's Houdini.
Houdini, sorry. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there's some interesting takes out there on generation. Definitely check that out.
Everestos asks, are there any plans to add decal props like graffiti, cracks, etc.?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Black Wolf Magic asks, we have the ability to make a mini out of a prop. Would you give us the ability to do the reverse? That way we can make statues of creatures / minis.
Yeah. I mean, that'll definitely be totally feasible with the prop modding and things like this. But whether we do that as a thing, I'll have to. You know what? I haven't given that enough feature enough thought. That's some words. To work out the good and bad bits of that, and what we would want to do, because if a creature just looks like a creature without a base just standing there, it just looks like a broken creature. If it's going to be a statue, we want to do something visual to like indicate its statuiness.
You could do like a one of the visual, if you do like something like bark skin or stone skin, you could stone skin a mini and then turn it into then any mini can become a statue at that point if we implement any kind of visual style for like something like a spell like stone skin or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, so one thing is that the whole the way the rendering is the way everything is batched and represented in the data is completely different for creatures and props and things like this. So it's slightly more fiddly going the other way, but it's not out of the question. But I would definitely want to. It just doesn't. There's something that doesn't feel quite right about that yet. So yeah.
Okay. Gig asks, what about adding forward-pointing flashlight for the cyberpunk player?
I mean, sounds neat.
Actually, yeah. I know, right? Yeah, and it's why not?
Yeah, we'll have a think about it. Like, definitely, if that one's not on the feature request site already, please add that there. I mean, a lot of these are.
Yeah.
Are definitely worthy of that.
Yeah. We have that one miniature in the law section. That little like flying robot guy who's got the spotlight.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that would be cool actually to have like a flashlight thing going down.
Yeah.
I like that. That's neat.
Okay. Mangonesium asks, can we get a mini of Dwarf's dog?
Yeah, actually. That's not a bad. What do you think? You want a mini, Mr. Nobles? Really? All right, give me a high five. We'll get a mini. All right. He's all about it.
Deal.
Ocean Lord asks, would the light range limitations mentioned earlier, 15, 30, 45, 60, be also partly reliant on the bare basics of a rule system for customization?
I'm not sure I understand. With the light range limitations mentioned earlier, also partly reliant on the bare basics for a rule system. Not reliant, so I can see the relationship between them, but the reasons that I'm cautious about real-time long-range lights are not the same as my thoughts around the rule system. I suppose I can answer it in that way. There are some overlapping concerns, but not in the main way. No, should be all right.
Triple question mark asks, have you seen Tabletop Simulator's Fog of War as possible inspiration in getting it to function in Tailspire?
I haven't checked into what they've got for Fog of War recently. I remember a long time ago, I went on a kind of a big dive looking around at different games of how they've done Fog of War, and I haven't seen anything that's like true 3D that isn't, because it's really easy to have a 2D map, and then as you move around, you're clearing in a kind of 2D way, and you can extend that up so it's 3D Fog of War, but that's not real line of sight in 3D space. If you stand inside a tunnel, you don't get like a tube of visibility coming out of that tunnel and clearing fog away. I'll happily look at the. Man, I would love someone to solve this problem for us, so we could just go, oh, that's how you do it. But I haven't seen it yet. I'll go and have a look.
A quick follow up on the light range question with the distance and rule system is specifically is like if a torch only works in so much distance based on like the player's torchlight, 30 feet, 60 feet.
They don't have to be linked together. One of the things with the so vision checks don't have to be linked to a real-time light. There are some we do use rendering as our approach for identifying what's visible, but we can do that at a much lower resolution than you need for a light, and we don't have to do it as often. So there's overlapping concerns, but not the same ones. Yeah.
Janoliart asks, so asking for a pirate friend, can we hope for Jolly Roger and its friends somewhere in the near foreseeable future?
Yeah. So again, that's something we're gonna need Johnny for that one. It's just gonna be more of like a kind of like a technical art thing and the implementation of that. We don't want just a flat, straight Lego kind of, flag. We want something that's kind of, with it, either a custom shader or something like that that's going to kind of wave, almost like the like the torch the torch light or the fire in game right now. We'd like something like that looks a little kind of stop animation, not exact, but and something we'd have to play around with. And then at that point, yeah, we'd start with the Jolly Roger, but then at that point we can do all kinds of flags and tapestries and other things like that.
Yeah, Johnny was digging into the wind system before as well when he had the kind of definition on the trees and stuff. That was really sick. I bet there could be some connection there.
Yeah, there you go. See, yeah, that's a good call right there. That'd be neat.
Knuckles625 asks, does Bouncyrock do discretionary time for passion features of devs, a la Valve/Google? Could community post a bounty for a feature that hasn't made it to the top of the priority list? I'd drop a bounty for unsupported modders. Why not first-party devs?
So bounties, no, because it just. I mean, really, I guess we're already working on like as much as we can do, and on the priorities, there are some things that just need to be done in a certain order, and there's not the whole picture isn't always available outside of the company. Yeah, I'm trying to answer this in a non-crap way, but yeah, no, that feels like it will put a lot of pressure on us, like in terms of sometimes you start working on something and you find that you need something else, and so then that takes a whole chunk of time, and you might have to. It might make sense to build another feature first. You can get this thing, so then you have this external pressure ordering how things are going to be done, and then you have to, like, if we're not delivering it in the way you've paid for, that's awful. And of course, you've already paid for the game. You shouldn't have to bribe us to make the game. It feels wrong. But to the first thing, do we do discretionary time? We don't have that formalized in any way. But then we're such a small company when we don't formalize. There's a bunch of things. If someone had like a burning need to do a thing, I'm sure we'd work it out. Yeah, we try not to do like unhealthy work anyway. So it's. I'm not so good at not doing that, but
yeah. Genghis asks, can we have doors for angled walls?
I mean, I could make it, but like, Chris, what do you? Because like the Yeah, what do you think?
There's been so doors traditionally have been tiles so far, and I am there's some design concerns I'm not willing to wade in on yet. Like technically, like it's like it's a game engine. You can put things at angles. It's like
right,
but there are choices we make about certain things. I wouldn't want to make any statements on that without Johnny's input on doors. Yeah.
We do have angled hallways with the mega dungeon.
We do, and it's I'm just trying to think of like because it's like again, yeah, I can go in, I can make it, I can take the doors that we have right now, and just give them at 45 degrees.
That's not the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's the same as with doors as props. There is still we are not on the final iteration of props or tiles or anything like that. So there are still like architectural stuff being worked out, and we'll it's like how the rotation things will come along.
I'll tell you what though,
they have more impacts.
Yeah, we'll play around with it. Something we can play around with, and possibly soon-ish, like this year for sure. Yeah, it's a good question, man. It's a good question, and it's something that it would be neat to have angled doors. It's just, oh man, how do you present that in the asset library so it's not confusing? And because you drag out a door and you're like, what the hell is this? I can't fit it in, and it's like, yeah, which door do I use? Do you make separate doors?
We get into rotation and variance and things like this. So well, there are some. It's one of those things that opens a can of worms, which we will open. But I'm not willing to make any promises on it yet.
Right.
Genghis also asked, it didn't get quite picked up by the question bot. Nice to have an on-off feature for lights and flames.
Yep, that's already. I have got to do a few things. So for modding of tiles and props, one of the things I also need to do is the scripting language that we have behind there needs to be. The visual component of that needs to be remade, and when I'm doing that, there's some fixes that need to be done for. Actually, no, we can do it before that. Okay, so scratch that bit about the language. There's a couple of bug fixes I need to do on the scripting system, and before we can do that. But yes, there is some prototype code for that already.
Burning Scythe asks, in the future, will there be more size options for minis? Currently, there are 0.5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. But it'd be also nice to have sizes like 0.75, 1.25, or bigger sizes like 8 or 10.
We don't have 6.
I like the feel of the iteration feel that we have right now. Boom, 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 boom. It is nice. It's tight. It's snappy. I don't know, man. Thinking of like a slider or something like that. But that again, that's something. I would like. I don't know.
So the thing that happens as you make minis bigger is that the controllers are designed for certain sizes. Not just certain sizes, but when things get really big, then the actual control, the game just doesn't feel as good. So I'm not saying no to 6 or whatever. The 6 was modded in by other folks, by the way. So if you want to go up to 6, there's an unofficial mod for it. But yeah, there's we would have to look into controlling very large things in Tailspire and building that so it's nice. There are tons of things that we can just throw in. We hate doing that. We hate it because we don't want to. If you just pile in features, you end up with a game which has loads of features and feels like shit. And we really don't want to do that. And we prefer to be have less stuff and it be feeling good. Not that we're happy with how it feels at the moment either. So make of that what you will. But yes, but scale, we are going to have to look into controlling big things regardless, because that's going to be part of the subboards feature. So you never know, that might actually allow us to go back and look at different scales, but no promises.
Ocean Lord asks, any ideas when we might see a limiting creature's movement in a turn? Say Dave the Barbarian can only move 30 feet /8 tiles in a turn, potentially with a GM override. I think this was once a thing back in ye old days.
Oh, that was fun. Yes, so the problem with that is what's a floor? What's a wall? What happens when you want to say, oh yeah, but my person has like climbing ability or has magic sticky feet, or how does the game know that? And what does distances mean across those things? It's a really weirdly hard problem to solve, like in a nice way. So we've kind of punted for a really long time. I spent a long time building a system that would walk across the terrain, and you run into some really interesting problems. So yeah, you can do pathfinding across things, but what it was really good at doing was climbing up onto boxes, getting onto the walls of your dungeon, and running along the walls of your dungeon to get to other places, because it doesn't know that you're doing that. And part of the problem is that we have beautiful builds like this, which are like sealed environments, but just as valid a build is when you just lay out a bunch of tiles as an open top dungeon. Your dungeon in your heads in the theater of the mind isn't open top, it's sealed. But tiles and miniatures and all this thing are an abstraction. They're a storytelling aid. They're something we use, but they don't encode all the real information. One of the areas where we kind of dance on this line is with measurements, right? That you could say, oh, but like it's 30 feet to here because the finger is pointing out this far. But in real life, in the real story, your character's not in this pose all the time or this pose all the time. So you start hitting that boundary between the abstractions of miniatures and trying to get real answers out of things. And so, yes, that became a real problem when we were dealing with pathfinding these environments, because it's actually really hard. If you want an exercise of this, build something in Tailspire and then try and work out an algorithm for working out what is indoors and what is outdoors for any board. It's remarkably tricky.
Tech Soup asks, has there been any discussion of a Quest/Vision Pro or a general AR/VR integration of the app?
We've AR is definitely the more interesting thing for tabletop games, I think, for sure. We've got nothing kind of public there at the moment. Like, you look at it and go, wow, that would be a huge project. That's what we're going to look at. That is a whole different control scheme, and like making building nice, making everything feel good would be an awesome but long project. And we've promised you guys a lot of things. So that would be way down the list.
Knuckles625 asks, what's next on the horizon for Symbiote's API? Fog of War, community probably can't solve it perfectly, but if Symbiote API allowed creation/modification of hide volumes, maybe a stopgap could be made.
Sure. I mean, I suppose the next thing for symbiotes, the next logical thing with symbiotes, other than just the kind of incremental evolutions to use some of the changes from the modding system and content API, is actually starting to make state changes to the game. Whether that's placing tiles or updating stats on creatures or all of that kind of stuff. Yes. And I'll be happier with opening that up once a little bit more of work is done on the back end to make sure we're not like crushing the back end with scripts. It's yeah. I saw Knuckles mention Tilt 5. Tilt 5 is sick. That's really cool. Would love to spend some time doing some Tilt 5 stuff. But time. Sorry, yes, distracted. Symbiote API. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's get some state changing things in there, like creation of hide volumes and things. I would love to see what comes out of that.
Metal Orange 123 asks, can you tell us about the pricing of seats?
No, we will once that's finalized. We're not worrying about that yet. We want it to be fair, we want it to be good, but that's a thing that is so separate from the technical implementation that we're just focusing on the technical implementation. Words, you know the one I was trying to say, that one. Yes. So when Johnny's a bit more back, then we'll have those kind of chats, but that will be, again, with some time before the end of March. But it's going to be close to the end of March when we talk about that.
We're getting close to the end of our questions. Only a few left. Black Wolf Magic asks, is there a possibility of an asset pack of simple, solid colored shapes to help with kit bashing unique objects or decal effects?
We wouldn't just have like red sphere and things like that. I that's kind of not. We would make things with a specific purpose, and people will kit bash them together. That said, once the prop and tile modding's in there, that will be very easy to do.
Yeah.
Ocean Lord asks, continuing on from the distance in a turn question, as I'm suddenly aware of how confusing that can be, what about a stat tracker, i.e. John moved 35 units? Avoids limitation, but is informative. I'll admit it runs into its own issues with backtracking in a turn.
I'm not sure from that description where that is or where it gets that information from. Is that just like it records the distance for each move? Because that's something, and puts it in the history, for example. Could definitely do that. One thing that you run into very quickly with that is some people use keyboard movement. And then you get John moved 5 feet, 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 which is very annoying. So then you will have to look into like collapsing those, maybe. Not sure. It's an interesting idea.
Romulo Obake asks, how is the progress about the grid visualization for the whole session?
Grid visualization with whole session. I don't remember what we've said previously about that. I haven't seen any progress on that since then.
Genghis asks, is there any chance of turning off the jumping of assets when placing
them? When you hover over them, that little thing where they pop up. I remember us having a discussion about. I remember it coming up like it was like, oh yeah, we need to like relook at the building system again, and there are like interactions like that. We want juice. We want it to be fun, but we don't want to impede work. So yes, that'll be interesting. I'm not sure if you remember anything on that, Jason.
No, I don't. All I know is the build. Like Johnny created the build system, like and the feel, and he is while it's great and in my opinion awesome. He's not completely happy with it. So there will be another pass at it, and so again, feature requests, get in there. If you have things like that, let us know. And so when that's revisited, it's something that we can kind of we can bring in all those kind of requests and review.
I'm gonna jump in. I just saw a thing from Forge of Law saying once a prop, it's a very good question. Once a prop is placed, it's slightly lower than where you had it. Now there's possible that that's a bug, and there's possible that's just tooling that needs to be better. We use a fixed point positioning system to keep data smaller, and for a variety of reasons. So tiles like props are snapped to 100th of a unit. So there's a possibility it's the 100th of the unit drop that could be visualized there, or it could be a screw up. Now, if it's that 100th, then what we can do is we can do the snapping when you're doing the placing as well to make sure that what you're seeing is exactly what you get. And that would be an easy fix. If you could take a little video of that and file a bug report. If you haven't already, if you have, thank you so much. Chair will have seen it, and that's probably like a I was about to say that sounds like a 10-minute fix, and it does sound like a 10-minute fix, and I bet there's something. But no, that sounds like something for a bug fix release.
Hollow Fox asks, not sure if this question has been asked, but will there be features for custom dice, e.g. fate dice and or custom dice model / textures?
Oh, I want to work on this so bad.
Yeah, man. Scatter dice, all that shit. Yeah.
Oh, like I have opinions on dice languages. I love dicking around with programming languages. It's one of the things I love doing. And dice macro systems are really cool. But I want to make the AST that goes underneath the language, the syntax tree that kind of this thing compiles down to, and then we can evaluate that. And I want one that, because there's certain kinds of roles, which I can't remember the names of right now because they've gone right out of my head because being on camera. There's certain kinds of roles that are just different variations of like, oh, it's this, and then they multiply together, or this and they add together. That's a certain kind of application of a function. I want to make that system that then other people can make dice macros that compile down to that system, and Tailspire runs on that system. I've got designs for it. I just need to spend the time doing it. And that's one of the things. So like when I'm saying like I've already upgraded the dice system to be able to handle for the structures for representing the roles. That was in, I can't remember what we did that for a while ago. I think it was in Symbiotes. It was actually for the Symbiotes API. I rewrote a lot of how the dice roles were represented in code. Yes, sorry, that distraction in my head. But yes, that would be really cool. I'd love to work on that sooner. That's one of the ones I think I would like to do before Fog of War. But yeah, we'll see. And then yes, of course, dice modding comes into that from the visual component of it. And there was something else as well. God damn it, just flew away. Dice language, doodah. Nope, it's gone. Sorry. There's some more details there as well that are really good fun.
GM Workshop asks, is it possible to modify the camera turn radius?
Is it possible to modify it? It's not possible for you to modify it. It's obviously possible for us to modify it, but that's not really the question. So yeah, no, not at the moment.
Ocean Lord asks, any chance of flat decals, such as pentagon, magic, ritual chalk drawing, or person outline, like in crime scenes, to help decorate scenes with finer detail?
Yeah, man. So So something that Chris was talking about earlier with placing props in the system that we have there. If we had something super thin like that, there's chances that it's just gonna, if it's an actual asset, you see what I'm saying? And so if we try to create these kind of like, it would be really neat that, like, and I've thought about, like, it would be cool to have like a sticker kind of thing, like a sticker system or something where you can have these really thin, and that goes back to the graffiti thing, even, where you can just slap like these stickers around on stuff. But that would be, we can't handle that in the asset side.
Well,
one, it would be insane to move it around, but it's like it would be something like maybe the particle system or something like that we'd have to.
So we would have to make a decal system basically that's projecting those things down, and that's technically possible. That's no argument with that. It's not been one of the things that's really fit with our aesthetic so far. It's like with our goo assets; those could have been decals, for example, but it's not toyish. It's not like Dwarven Forge. It's not physical. And so things that are just kind of projected onto stuff is stuff we've stayed away from. And I think there's a bunch of things that we try and resist for as long as possible until it just becomes necessary. And I feel like that's going to be one of them, is kind of projection-based things.
Yeah.
But like an outline, for example, or like a thing that's got a physicality to it. We can give that some thickness in an interesting way.
Like even one of those, like, remember like those old puffy stickers you used to, like, your sister collected, right. Stuff like that. Yeah, something like, we could probably do something like, give it a little bit more volume, and then maybe handle it as an asset and to make it feel good. And don't get me wrong, man, particle systems and stuff like that, it would be neat. I remember, like, when we first started testing this thing, like Johnny just brought in some like god rays or whatever inside of the inside of like the first like kind of dungeon that we tested way back in the day before we even knew what the fuck this thing was. And I love that kind of stuff. And but yeah, when we want to retain this kind of look and feel as much as we can, and like Chris said, it's probably just this inevitable thing we're gonna have to just deal with, and not deal with, I don't want to put it like that, but either implement or find a way to do it in a way that feels good for Tailspire itself.
Yep.
Gig asks, can we have the GM turn on and off door requests / locks? My players get angry waiting for me to open unimportant doors.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair. I don't. Well, I mean, short answer, yes, we could do that. I just think we just add extra states to the doors. We add a lock state, and then like it's only if it's in the lock state it does a request. It's a little bit of work on the language side. That's fine. That isn't a big deal. Yeah. If there's not a feature request for it, which I'm pretty sure there is, do make that feature request because yeah, we'd love to.
And our last question that is unfortunately not in the question bot due to some misunderstandings in chat is from Tretchbolt, and it's, is there going to be more options to get music and sound effects into Tailspire?
Oh, yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yeah, Jason and I have been working on a design of a new music player, and we've got some thoughts about in-world sound effects and things like that, which fit with the kind of the being able to drag out emotes as well, like being able to click on something in the library, like a lightning strike, and do that into the board as the GM. Yeah, there's things we can do with audio as well.
Yeah, man.
The new content system is going to allow us to do some things with loading that will be useful there. Also, then modding, you could start putting like sound effect libraries onto mod.io and downloading them into the game and using them as things.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, as much as I like writing and recording music and everything like that, I am so sick of the music in Tailspire.
What?
I'm just like every time we play, it's like, yeah, we gotta get some new stuff in there. And I can't. I'm most of my time's going to assets these days, anyways. So it'd be nice to just bring in some cool some of my favorite dungeon synth artists in there when we're playing Shadow Dark or whatever, and things like that. So it'd be nice to get that system up and running. And yeah, I mean, the conversations that Chris and I were having, anytime we had those, it pumped me up, man. There was some cool ideas, and we'll see where that goes.
Okay. Well, with that, we are through the question queue that was there when I said the question bot was closed. And I believe, unless there is any more for any more, I think we're about ready to wrap up.
Fantastic.
So if you have
folks,
sorry,
yeah. Go ahead.
If you have more questions, please make sure we're always active in the Discord. We have the feature request site, asset request, bug reports. I'm sure the mods are going to be lovely and getting those up in the chat at the moment. But we do have another one of these planned. Hopefully, April 12th should be the next one, as we will be doing this every 2 months on the second Friday of the month. So, I believe, unless there's any news other than our creature modding starting on Monday.
Yes.
Oh, right. Yeah.
As a reminder.
Yeah, beta begins on Monday. After this, I'll be putting out the public announcement so other people will know that that's happening. Monday it kicks off, probably 2 weeks before it goes live to everyone. That gives us a lot of time to find out what I've coded wrong. And and get that fixed. It's going to be a blast. And but if you want to start making mods already, there is the Tailweaver Lite plugin for Unity. It's free to use. The version of Unity you use it with is free. You don't need. You might need to set up an account. If they do, that's very annoying, and I'm sorry about that. And we'll look at other options in future. But you are able to go and start producing minis. If you have 3D models, you can get them into things and get them ready for when the modding becomes public. And yeah, I really can't. You folks build such awesome stuff. I really can't wait to see what happens on the creature side.
Yeah, for real.
Let's just keep this rolling. It's going to be a great year.
Yep.
So with that, we'll see you all soon, and have fun with creature modding on Monday.
Take care, folks. Ta-da.
See you guys.